Greetings, friends. I'm AK.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
The Chainsaw Girls. On today's episode, I know I say this about every single episode, but I actually am really excited to cover this movie.
Me too.
This was a first time watch for you.
Yes.
All right, we are covering 1989's Intruder.
Intruder, which at the time of this recording is available on the Full Moon app, which I also didn't know existed, and Tubi.
Yes, very exciting. Okay, I'm going to read the IMDb description. The overnight stock crew of a local supermarket finds themselves being stalked and slashed by a mysterious maniac.
I cannot believe that I've never seen this slasher.
Yeah, I know. I saw it for the first time, I think 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And even I was like surprised that I had never seen it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I assumed you had saw this when you were like 4.
No.
Like a lot of these movies.
Not this one. Not this one. No. No, this was, I can't remember where, it might have been on Joe Bob that I first saw it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this feels like a Joe Bob.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the supermarket aesthetic.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I loved this movie. I thought it was so good. It has everything that an 80s slasher, everything you would want in an 80s slasher, and the supermarket was a unique setting for that.
Yeah.
And I knew, of course, going in now, in present day, you watch it going, okay, what's going to be the twist? Like, who's it going to be? But it was still so fun to watch and to wait for that reveal.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I love a whodunit.
Yeah.
This is my favorite. And I thought, especially on the second or third watch, it was really fun to go back and see like where the killer is in relation to the kids and his interaction with every single person.
Yeah, the second watch was a different experience now knowing what happened at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought our cast were really fun. I loved how everyone interacted with each other. It was just a really fun movie. It had a very low budget. $130,000.
Wow.
Which is like,
it sounds like a lot of money if someone just handed you $130,000, but it's not a big budget for a movie.
No, definitely not. And I believe that they filmed this in an empty or an old grocery store, and they had a company come in and fill the shelves with product that had been damaged a little bit.
Okay.
So basically they filled the whole grocery store to make it look like a real place, a real grocery store.
Wow. So it was like a Marshall's. They're like, give us the damaged product.
Oh my God.
I love Marshall's.
I like Marshall's snacks. I know that's like a bit controversial, but
is it?
Yeah, because people think like they're expired or something.
Oh,
I like them.
I like them.
$2 chips, giant bag.
It is so hard to not buy them in the checkout aisle. That's why they put them there.
Oh, 1,000,000% yes, absolutely. Okay, so this was written and directed by Scott Spiegel. I'm praying I'm saying that right. And it's based on a short story, I believe, written by Scott Spiegel called Night Crew. It was either a short story or it was a short movie.
Okay.
One or the other, but it was
Something
based
was
on
short.
Yes, and it's loosely based on his experience working in a market or like grocery store in Michigan.
Okay. I was going to ask you, I was waiting. I'm like, I can't wait to ask this question. Mm-hmm. Do you know if this was supposed to be based in Michigan or not?
Yes, it is supposed to be based in Michigan. It's supposed to be based in, I'll let you celebrate while I look it up.
I was like,
yeah, I know. I knew you were going to pop for that.
Because I caught something in the movie and I was like, okay, I'm going to sound like a crazy person because I already went on a tangent about how I thought Santa's sleigh was supposed to be based in Michigan, even though there's no proof of that whatsoever. Remember?
Yeah, I do.
I was like, there's this happens and then this happens. And I think it's in Michigan, but really it's in Canada.
People in the comments on YouTube mentioned something about it being in Michigan. I don't know if that was like, if that's real or not. Because I couldn't find anything that said it was in Michigan.
Okay, I couldn't find anything confirming that it was in Michigan. But at one point, the manager is telling a story and he says on 9 Mile in Farmington. No, he says on 9 Mile. I don't know. It's in my notes. We'll get to it. But it's a crossroads. Oh, 9 Mile in Middle Belt, he says. That's an actual crossroads. And it's like near Detroit, probably like Farmington Hills area. If you know, you know. And I got so excited and I was like, I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to sound like a lunatic. And Laura's going to be like, you have to stop thinking every movie is based in Michigan.
No, this one, you are correct.
Yes.
It is supposed to be based on Walnut Lake Market in Michigan. The town in the film is Walnut Let me try that again. The town is called Walnut Lake, and it's loosely based off of West Broomfield, Michigan.
West Bloomfield.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, I pulled up my maps to look up if there's a Walnut Lake.
Yes, and I believe Bruce Campbell and the Raimi brothers and Scott Spiegel are all from Bloomfield. The Bloomfield Hills area.
Hell yeah.
So that would make sense.
Represent. Okay.
Yes.
Well, now that that's out of my system, we can move on.
Yeah. No, I was really excited when I looked it up and realized it. I'm like, oh my God, AK is going to have a field day with this one.
I did.
Originally, this was going to be directed by Tobe Hooper.
Okay.
Didn't work out. Not sure why, but just kind of like a little fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go along, I will sprinkle in some other tidbits because there's lots of fun stuff. But before we move, I want to just make a special note about the special effects in the movie. They are from KNB FX Group, which is Greg Nicotero, Howard Berger, and Robert Kurtzman. Amazing special effects makeup artists, which are in a few of the movies that we've already covered and ones that we are going to cover.
Yeah, and they did a phenomenal job.
How awesome were the kills?
Oh my gosh. Even if you don't like 80s style slashers, you got to watch at least the practical effects in this movie and the kills. They're wild.
Unhinged.
Especially for an 89.
Yeah.
They're wild.
I would say I'm just going to venture a guess that most of the budget went towards the effects. I'm just guessing because they are really well done.
Yes.
I loved them.
All right. So let's get into it, shall we?
Yes.
So we start out, as you mentioned, at the Walnut Lake Market, a grocery store that is closing in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of questions about this already because throughout the movie, these characters that work at the grocery store, they stay a very long time. And I don't know if that is how grocery stores actually work.
Well, they're the night crew.
Right. Like they were cleaning, which I understand.
Cleaning, stocking.
The butcher was like chopping stuff up.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of grocery stores stay 24 hours anymore, but the ones in my neighborhood, Wegmans and Tops, used to be 24 hours. And there definitely were people overnight, like having to do a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
So.
I think it was the cashiers that I was like, girl, go home. Like your shift is done.
Yeah. I wonder if it's also because it's a smaller sort of market.
I think so.
Yeah.
So yes, the grocery store is closing in 15 minutes. And I loved seeing those old school logos on all of the cereal boxes and stuff. It was so nice. Yeah.
Me too. I made a note of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
I mean, I don't even know if I wasn't old enough to really remember those exact logos, but it just was cool to see like, oh, this isn't just something that's staged to look like it's in the 80s. That's what was available at the time.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat as well. I definitely paused and scanned to see all the different boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the little things just make us happy.
No, it's true.
And so we meet Jennifer and Linda. Mm-hmm. Jennifer, our main character, and they are helping a grumpy old man finish up in the line at the grocery store.
Yes, I think he says, am I interrupting you guys? Or something like that.
And they were kind of being rude. They were like talking over him. You know, he's in line and they're just like laughing with each other. He's like, he said something like, he called them lovebirds when he left or something like that.
Well, they were like discussing, Jen and Dave, I believe. Like they were talking about her liking him. This reminded me so much of, I used to work at Shoppers Drug Mart in Canada.
I love Shoppers.
Oh my God, it's the best. I worked there for a long time in the boutique area.
Like all the makeup?
Yeah, with all the makeup. Mm-hmm. And this reminded me so much of when I worked there. It was one of the most fun jobs I've had because the people I worked with were fantastic. But my one girlfriend, her name is Tatum. She's incredible. She's an actor as well.
You knew a real Tatum?
I knew a real Tatum. And she actually was in It. She was in the first
Wow.
It. So anyways, she used to do this bit where if we had like hard customers, and sometimes they would ask you like, do you have that in the back? Can you check the back? Can you check the whatever? And we would be like, unfortunately, we don't have any more, as you would. And some people just, they don't take that for an answer. They literally think you're hiding shit from them. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, we were not, I promise. But Tatum would do this bit where she'd be behind the counter and she would look at them and be like, you know what? Let me check the basement. And she would go under the counter and like act as if she was lifting up a cellar door, and she'd bring her arm up really dramatic. And then she would start walking down steps, but almost in a, like going down a spiral staircase.
Like squatting
down, not just like going downstairs, like a spiral stair. She'd go all the way down, she would like wait a couple seconds and then she would come climbing back up and she'd be like, unfortunately, we don't have any more. And 9 times out of 10, the people would think that she actually went into a basement.
She actually bamboozled these people?
Yes. And I would
What?
always be on the other side of the store just like pissing my pants laughing.
And what happened the other 1 out of 10 times? Were they like, what the fuck are you doing?
They just didn't say anything.
Okay.
They just wouldn't say anything. Yeah. Because I mean, how do you respond to that, right? But
Yeah.
she always had these like bits that she did. And it really did make work so much fun.
I love that she did that to a customer's face. That having a good crew is everything.
Especially when you're working with the public.
Yes.
And especially in like because Shoppers was also, it's like kind of a grocery store.
Yeah, if you're from the US and you don't know what Shoppers is, it's in Canada. To me, from an American perspective, I feel like it's a Walgreens that has a Sephora in it and also sometimes has a little bit of groceries.
Yeah, it's like a Walgreens on steroids,
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah.
And when I moved to the States and there wasn't a place like Shoppers, I was beside myself. And actually to this day, I go to Canada at least once a month just to go to Shoppers and like stock up on all my Canadian things.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I totally went off there, but
But that's okay.
Anywho.
I was into it. I want to know all about Tatum. I want to know more about Tatum after this.
no, we'll talk about it in the post show.
Yeah, post show for Patreon. If you
Yay.
did not get to check out yet, we do have a Patreon. We just started. Thank you all so much for your support. If you signed up, even if you didn't, thank you for your support anyway. We
Hell
appreciate
yeah.
you watching this video and listening to this podcast.
Yeah, it's the best. Thank you.
So, where were we? Now, Jennifer goes outside and she's going to round up carts, which sounds like a nightmare to me. I know Laura and I just went to the grocery store real quick when she came to the house, and there were all these carts in the parking lot. And I think I even said to you, I was like, if I had to organize these, I think I would lose my shit.
You did.
It just looks like an OCD nightmare. I don't know.
No, for real. I agree.
And she goes outside and this guy is just staring at her.
Okay, did he not look like the driller killer?
Okay, I wrote, he has a leather jacket and a cigarette. That's how you know he's a bad boy.
I mean, yes.
He looks like the driller killer without the guitar drill.
Dick.
I was going to say knife, and I'm like, it's literally driller killer. It is a drill. Make the point, yes. And without the curl in the front, I think. But almost.
Wait, are you talking about his like, is it called a Jerry curl?
I don't think that's a Jerry curl. It's he had what is that? I keep calling everything a pompadour to you this weekend.
I know, and I just nod along. I'm like, that sounds right.
Sounds right. Whatever, you get it. 80s greaser.
Greaser.
There you go. Greaser. He's a bad boy. Jennifer doesn't notice him. And then she goes back to the register. She's helping someone, and he's behind this customer now. He's the next customer in line. And we find out that he is Craig. Okay, an ex-lover.
I called him John for like half this movie because I didn't know what his name was. I just didn't catch it. And I was like, hey, he looks like a John.
He's probably John. No, he's a Craig. He is a Craig. And Craig is not happy that Jennifer has not returned his calls or written back to him. He's very aggressive about it.
Aggressive is like an understatement. He is over the top.
Yeah.
And desperate. He sounds desperate.
He goes from 0 to 10 out of nowhere.
Instantly.
Well, I guess it's 0 to 100, right? I was thinking 10 out of 10. He goes from 0 to 10%. That doesn't sound very aggressive. No, he goes from 0 to 100 real quick.
I knew you were going to say real quick.
It just fits, right? That's the same.
No, for sure.
So he's like, you haven't returned my calls. And she's like, oh, I haven't listened to my answering machine in a few days, which imagine the days of that being an excuse.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't get around to pressing the button on my answering machine. Sorry, I wasn't home.
I mean, I could probably use that excuse now. I just haven't listened to my messages.
Yeah.
Just didn't check my phone.
I miss that. I miss being able to leave your house and feeling free and not like you're chained to this device that I currently have in my hand right now because that's where I write my notes.
No, for real. Like everybody's accessible at all times and it's pretty fucked up, to be honest.
I hate it and I'm very against it.
Same.
Like if somebody tries to give me an attitude because I didn't write them back fast enough, I will lose it. I also noticed, I'm sorry, I feel like we're going on a lot of tangents, but it's also our first episode of the day. So we're just getting it out of our system. I totally just lost my train of thought. What the hell were we talking about?
Just the fact that everybody's so accessible all the time.
Oh, I said lose it. I feel like I say I'm going to fucking lose it all the time to you. Like, oh, if this happens, I'm going to fucking lose it. I don't ever lose it.
You never lose it.
I never lose it, actually.
You're always calm, cool, collective in my book.
am not in my head, but I think I'm pretty good at controlling it. I think I get it from my mom. My mom does not react to anything.
Oh, really?
She's so chill. She's just like, okay, that's nice.
Wow, I don't have that. I mean, I'm pretty, I don't think I like freak out, but I definitely feel like I express myself when I'm frustrated and stuff.
I think when I'm with you, I do it more. Because I think
I'm bringing out the bad
not
side.
in a bad way. Like, I feel like I can say it to you.
Me too. That's how I feel too. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Over like little dumb trivial shit.
Yeah.
Or like if I'm going to fucking lose it.
Okay, what about me forgetting stuff for the photo shoot yesterday and I almost had a complete meltdown?
When we didn't though. We did not lose it. No one lost it.
If it weren't for you saying to me, it's okay. Look we've got this white shirt here. I would have been off the rails.
We are going to talk about our photo shoot that we just did. We did our first ever Chainsaw Girl shoot. We're so excited. We have not gotten all of the images back yet. And we're going to talk about that in the post extended episode for Patreon.
Hell yeah. Okay.
All right.
So Craig is mad.
Yes.
Craig is really mad. And Jen is sort of like, yo, dude, I'm not into you anymore. And he's very pissed about it. And Linda, who's in the register over, is like, hey, is everything okay over here? He whips around and immediately he's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
It's so aggressive.
Yes. And I love that she's like, okay. And she presses an alarm under the register.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I liked Linda.
Me too.
Linda
I
was a
liked
good
her
friend.
lot. She
Yeah.
was a good friend. And so she pushes this alarm, which doesn't go to the cops. It goes to the office where we meet Bill and Danny, right?
Yes.
And they are co-owners of this grocery store.
Yep.
One has a little more power than the other. Danny
one has 50%, one has 49%.
Yeah, 51 and 49. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny and Bill are in the office doing paperwork, and it seems like there's some tension.
For sure. And isn't Danny like taking the receipts and just like slapping it on that like
I meant to look up
gimmick?
what that's called.
It's
like a
a
spike.
paper spike gimmick.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sure.
Like a receipt spike.
Like when you've already looked at the receipt and you wrote it down in your book, QuickBook or whatever, you stick it through the thing so that you know.
Wait.
I don't know. Inventory.
Okay. Yeah.
Something.
Look, it's the 80s. Okay. They're doing things that we don't do anymore. They're like writing out physical receipts, checks, and like putting it on this big long spike that will come back into play,
Sure
which is
will.
why we're harping on it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Danny's kind of aggressive. Danny wants to do something that Bill's doesn't really seem that sold on, but Bill's like, hey, I got to go check why she's ringing this alarm. And Danny's like, nah, just let them be. They're fine. You know, every time you check, it's never anything. He's like, let me at least go look out the window. That's what he says. And I was like, oh yeah, he's Midwestern for sure. Midwestern accents range so crazily. Like, I don't even know. Is that even a word? Is crazily a word?
I don't know, but I can't really tell a Midwest. I don't think I can really tell the Midwest accent.
Oh, you can.
I can?
Yeah, I think you'd be able to if you really heard, but they're different everywhere. I think my accent is pretty neutral.
It is. Yeah, I would say so.
But I have made it that way. I've really focused on making it that way because a lot of Midwesterners, they'll emphasize their A's like at.
Oh.
Like I always joke about how people from Ohio, they'll add a Y in front of the A in something. So like if the name is Matt, they'll say Matt.
Okay. Yeah, I've definitely heard that before.
Yes. And it's obviously not everyone. I'm also from the Midwest, but I hear it a lot in Ohio.
Yeah.
And you have heard like a Minnesota.
Minnesota reminds me of Canada because they have a little bit of the inflection.
Yeah, inflection.
Mm-hmm.
And Canadian is very similar to Midwestern.
I think so, but I think Canadian is like, I love a Canadian accent. Buffalo has a very strong accent, and I was jarred when I first moved there and heard it. I was like, whoa.
I don't know if I know the Buffalo accent.
It's kind of like nasally. I don't know how else to describe it. It's not bad. It's just distinct. You can tell when someone's from Buffalo.
I'm going to pay attention next time.
Like Jesse says dollar.
It's a dollar.
It's a dollar. And I say it's a dollar. Like with a more of a OU. Because we have you in a lot of our words.
Dollar.
Yeah, you say it like I do. Dollar.
Okay.
He says dollar. And the first time he did, he also called a creek a crick. I've never laughed that hard in my entire life.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Crying tears. I was like, you have to wait and stop and say that again. We've been married for like 10 years. And I had no idea that you called a creek a crick.
You've never come across a creek before in your marriage?
I think I was across the room when I heard him say it.
And you're like, what?
I whipped around and I was in tears. Anyway.
Okay. So he does go check out the window to see what's going on. And then we cut back to Jennifer and Linda. Jennifer's trying to charge Craig $1.35 for the cigarettes.
For the cigarettes, yes.
Which how inflation has increased those. I don't even know how much they cost, but I know I always see like the pictures and I think they're like well over $5.
Oh yeah, I would say so, yeah.
And so she's telling him it's over between them, and he ends up like grabbing her, trying to grab her face.
Oh, he hits her.
He ends up hitting her, yeah.
It escalates so quickly. He's super rough with her. But my favorite thing about this scene is he hits her, and every single person in that store that works there comes running to her rescue.
We have to talk about the fight scene.
Okay, first of all, they all come running, and I'm telling you, they all square up with this guy.
Yes.
It looked like a dance-off.
It really did. It was very choreographed and the punches sounded like they were from a video game.
It reminded me of like Batman, where it was like, pow,
Bam.
ka-jam. Like, and even their movements were super exaggerated.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
The sounds were literally like, psh, psh, psh.
Boo, bah, boo, ah. It was so, but I just loved that like everybody came to her defense, which really paints the picture that they're all very close to each other.
Yeah.
They care about each other.
Yep.
I liked that.
Yeah, they all pretty much try to jump Craig, even though he's kind of beating them up. There's one scene where someone tries to jump on his back and he like grabs him by the hair and swings them around to the front. And the way it looked, the way he swung his body almost looked like he did it for real.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I feel like he really did just grab his hair. We are going to have to post clips of this fight because it was very entertaining.
Yes. So they all kick his ass and then he takes off.
Yep.
He runs and hides in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody decides to split up and find Craig in the store.
Yes.
And I just have to say, this is not a large store.
No.
It's really not a big, this isn't like a super Walmart. This is a pretty small store for him to be hiding and for them to be checking like every corner of the store and they can't find him.
Like this scene is long too.
It's very long. And we're kind of being introduced to all the players here.
Yeah, there are a lot of different characters. So we're shown each area that they're in and they're searching the whole thing.
Yeah.
You would think it is like a super Walmart, the way that they show them searching they have a whole separate like butcher section and like an attic they go into and everything.
Yeah, it appears larger than I think it is.
Yes.
Right? And should we go through the list of what everyone's names are?
Yeah.
I feel like because we're introduced to a lot of characters here. So we've already met Jen and Linda. Those are our cashiers.
Mm-hmm.
Bill is one of the owners. He's dressed like a maintenance dude.
Yeah.
I would say. He kind of looks like
he looks like the manager that always has to go talk to customers.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, where Danny is like the suit.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got Craig, which is our greaser. Randy, who is played by Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Danny, who I don't actually remember which one Danny is. Is he the owner? Danny's the owner.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, gotcha. Suit. Dave, Bub, Tim, Produce Joe, who is Ted Raimi.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be introduced to some cops later on. But those are our main players.
Yes. So Produce Joe, which you mentioned is Ted Raimi, he's stocking watermelons and he tells, I believe it's Dave, that, Dave is like, oh, Craig's in the store. We're looking for him. And Produce Joe was like, oh, Craig Peterson? One time I kicked his ass. And I think that's actually when Dave's like, oh, well, he's in here right now and we're looking for him. And then he's like, oh, like you can see it in his face. He's like, oh, shit.
No, I definitely made a note of that. Like he was like, right now we're going to look for him.
Yeah.
That was funny.
He was talking all that shit. Ain't no way he beat his ass. So Bub tells the manager, Bill, that he might be in the attic. And Bill is like, is that where I always find y'all smoking that wacky tobacco? Bill had great lines in this movie.
No, he really did. And I made sure to make a note of the wacky tobacco because I completely forgot that was like, that's like when people call it the devil's lettuce.
Oh my gosh.
It always makes me pop.
So they go and they look in the attic. I had to write this down because it just made me laugh. It was like the one thing that actually made me laugh out loud in this movie. Even though there's a lot of funny stuff, like this actually made me audibly laugh. Bill is climbing up the ladder. One of the steps breaks. He falls. And when he gets up, he's like, son of a whore. And I don't know why that just made me laugh so hard. I think it's because I didn't expect him to say whore.
Yeah, it was very...
Once again, Midwestern.
Oh, okay. I
think.
wasn't really sure how to describe that. To be honest, I sort of blanked out there.
I don't know that son of a whore is a Midwestern saying, but just how he said it, I was like, yeah, you're just solidifying that I think you're from Michigan. My little investigation throughout the movie.
Okay, so Jen is on the phone with the cops. And when she's on the phone with the cops, Craig sneaks up behind her and like gets in her face, and he wants like the change from the cigarettes that he bought. No, you don't, Craig.
Yeah.
Just leave.
And of course, when she goes to hand it to him, he grabs her wrist. He tries to kiss her, like force himself on her.
After you've slapped her. Get out of here, Craig.
Yeah, just take no for an answer. Cut your losses. Get the fuck out of here, Craig.
For real.
I almost called him Greg, but it's Craig with a C for cunt. Okay.
This is great.
So Dave shows up out of nowhere with Danny, and they grab him again. Like they're right there.
Like, doesn't Dave like jump? He like pounces on him.
Yeah, and grabs both of his arms.
Yeah, and they hold him, and they're basically trying to chuck him out of the store, and they do.
Yeah.
They throw him out.
They throw him out. They get all the kids together at this point, and they're telling them that they're selling the store.
That's right.
And Randy is like, I had a paid vacation to take, and I was thinking like, damn, at a grocery store? Like, was it really good back then? Is it good now? I don't know.
I think Wegmans is. Wegmans is really good. Yeah.
Nice. I immediately was like, PTO, wow. Because like there are some jobs that you would think have PTO that do not.
I think also because it's such a small grocery store.
Yeah, maybe.
It reminds me of this place near my house called Dash's. But they basically tell them that the store is closing, and the kids are upset about it.
Yeah.
It really shows that they love their job. And I think it's also because of the relationships.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It shows that they all really actually like it here.
Yeah,
and
for
each
sure.
other.
Yeah. And Bill is pretty bummed about it. And he even tells them, he's like, yeah, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want it to close, but unfortunately, I don't own majority share. I don't really have a say in what happens.
Yeah. Bill owns the 49% of the grocery store.
Yep, exactly.
Though he does say there that it's implied there, or he says something about being really passionate about the grocery store, and that's like all he has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just made a note here that Produce Joe also is listening to the same song with like 4 notes the entire movie.
I wrote in my notes, it sounds like stock music that you would hear in a video game.
It's like down, 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 down. It's that over and over and over.
I couldn't stop talking about it when I was rewatching it. I kept telling Jess, I'm like, this kid keeps listening. You would lose your mind.
Yeah.
Or he's just baked.
Probably.
Because how could you listen to that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a good point. And so Craig is still stalking, of course. He's calling the grocery store.
Yeah, and we kind of see his POV outside, which I did like.
Yeah.
That was one thing I was going to say about this movie. There's a lot of really creative shots.
Yes, I wrote that somewhere in my notes.
Yeah, there's like, there's scenes where you're looking at someone, but it's through a bottle. They hold the shot of like blood a lot. They do all these really neat cuts.
They're very creative.
It's very creative, and I think that's what makes the movie work so well on such a tight budget.
Yeah.
Very creative.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
So Linda now at this point, when Craig keeps calling, she's like, what is with this guy? Like, I can't believe you went out with him. He's such a creep.
Oh, yeah, because he's kind of like prank calling the store.
Yeah. And so Jennifer tells Linda that she went out with him for 2 months.
2 months.
2 months she dated this guy, and it was a year ago, but he was in prison. So we had a lot of time to think about this.
I guess so, but 2 months?
2 months you dated this guy? Like, how good was it? It must have been great.
I honestly thought they had been like some long relationship.
Yeah.
2 months?
The way he's acting.
Very obsessed.
Or she just got it like that. Jennifer just got it like that.
I guess. But like one thing that happens here that like popped me was there's like a close-up of a magazine.
Oh, I went down a rabbit hole on this magazine.
Really?
Yes. I
it's
have notes about it.
What is it? March 12th, 1980 something? I made a note of it.
Yeah, I wrote, we're almost there, and I wrote, I'm talking like a rabbit hole on Sting.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear it. Okay.
So she tells him he went to prison because when she tried to break up with him a year ago, he got mad, he fought someone at a bar and accidentally killed him.
Killed the guy at the bar.
It was an accident, but still, he got into a fight and killed the guy.
And you kind of see him lurking in the back there.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool.
He's standing at the glass door, just staring into the store with no expression on his face.
Yet they do a really good job of making you think that Craig is our killer.
Yes.
I mean, it's a little heavy-handed, but they do a good job of at least making him out to be not a great guy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he's a very realistic suspect.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
So she's telling the story, and then all of a sudden, Linda or Jennifer, one of them, like looks over, and the camera pans and it zooms in. You're gonna think it's on Craig, who was just standing at the window, but it's on a magazine of Sting, who has like this red face paint on, and you're like, it's in German. You're like, what the fuck is this? Like, why would I don't understand. I looked into it because it just seems so misplaced. It makes sense because then she said it was like a little joke, because then Jennifer says it felt like someone was watching me. Like the song from The Police, Every Breath You Take.
Oh,
I'll be watching you.
That's really clever.
So it's like a little joke, and I guess they just wanted to throw that in there. But also I looked into this magazine because I was like, why is he in red? Why is it a German magazine? That wouldn't be at the store, I don't think. Why does he have this face paint on? And it was a German magazine called Tempo. And out of curiosity, I looked into it. The German title says Sting as a reporter among the Amazon Indians, how the whites are destroying the rainforest, which I don't think has anything to do with this movie. I don't know why they chose a German magazine. Maybe it's because of his facial expression.
It is a pretty wild cover.
Yeah, he is like making like a screaming face, like, ah. So maybe that's why they did it. But that was like a legit thing that Sting was doing, trying to save the rainforest. And the rainforest is burning 30 plus years later still.
Sad, very sad. That's a big bummer.
But don't know why they chose that specific one. But yes, it was a joke. It was a joke about a song.
I think that's awesome because I was wondering. Cute. I'm like, why did they cut like that to that magazine?
Yeah, I had to look into it because it felt so random.
Yeah.
So Linda finally answers the phone because it keeps on ringing, and she answers it and she's like, look here, shithead. And it ends up being her boyfriend.
It's Teddy.
She's like, oh, I'm sorry, Teddy. And he wants her to bring beer home from the store. Mm-hmm. Understandable.
Yep. We see a killer's POV again, and we're looking at the dumpster outside the grocery store.
Yeah. And so I actually noted one of the unique camera angles here that we just talked about. So like Jennifer is sweeping and the camera is from the POV of underneath her.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to know what the floor sees while you're sweeping it, you can watch this movie and see it.
I think it's so clever because it's like kind of has like an artsy feel to it a little bit.
Yeah, they do it a lot. I really liked it.
And it's kind of disorienting, and it sort of like because it's a whodunit, I think it works really well.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's different.
It's different. Yeah.
So there are a lot of scenes in this movie that build relationships between the characters. There's a lot of funny lines. I highly recommend watching it for yourself, just so you get the rapport between these characters that we can't really relay just by naming off all these scenes. There are a lot of scenes we don't really need to necessarily go over one by one because it's all just like they're searching for Craig, they're cleaning up the store, and they're building their relationships between each other.
Yeah, you kind of get to know how they're all friends. There's a conversation between, I referred to the produce guy as Ted the whole time because he's played by Ted Raimi, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to refer to him as Ted, guys. Okay. So Ted and Dave have a conversation about Jennifer and dating Jennifer. And so there's like, we've got that going on. So we know that there's like something going on between those two characters. We're introduced, or we get to know Bub.
Yes.
And Linda a little bit more in the bread aisle.
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene?
I don't remember Linda's part in it, but I did. My next note was, I love the dumb one. And then I wrote Bub ? Because I was trying to like catch up with everyone's names.
Yeah, I think it's Bub, but he talks about how Craig like went crazy after doing drugs. He got really into drugs. He was selling drugs and taking drugs, and he kind of like went off the rails. But the way that he describes it, if you haven't seen the movie, just watch that scene. It's so funny.
Yes.
I was like dying. I couldn't stop laughing.
Yes, I did write that down. I didn't realize it was with Linda, but yeah,
he says that Craig tried to kill him
with a blender.
His brother made the save and whacked Craig over the head with a Hamilton Beach blender over and over to like get him away from Bub. Yeah.
He's like, if he didn't hit him, if he wouldn't have hit Greg with a blender, I would be dead or something. And she's like, a blender? And he's like, yeah, a Hamilton Beach blender. Like the way he says
the dialogue is really, I love the dialogue in this movie. It's funny.
It builds rapport.
It does. It's clever and quick.
Yeah.
I liked it. But Bub was cracking me up. His cell, this whole movie was just
He's like
phenomenal.
high, like a high surfer dude. Like,
I would say so. Yeah, he's like a stoner surfer. At least that's kind of the vibe that I got from him.
yeah, I don't think he'd be surfing in Michigan, but who knows? He could be from California or something.
Yeah, maybe he just moved there.
Or maybe he's just high. I don't know. So the police finally show up. I actually, there is a scene here where Bill is telling the story. This is where I wrote down, like, this is supposed to be in Michigan. I know it.
Well, and the story is kind of important because later in the movie it comes into play. He tells this story that he was a volunteer firefighter and he knew his partner, can't recall what the guy's name is, Parker maybe? I think his name is Parker, is his partner. And they get this call where they have to go to the scene of a crime or whatever, and there's a body with a missing head, and Parker's eating a sandwich, and Parker finds the head, and he's coming down the road holding the head and a sandwich. And apparently that whole monologue is from Raising Arizona.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Apparently, that is what my notes say.
And that's Bill going on that tangent the whole time. And he's getting a little...
He's really into telling his story, and he finds it very funny.
Yes.
And I didn't really find it funny.
Yeah, he's talking about some guy losing his head.
Yeah,
like,
and he's like, and Parker, here comes Parker walking down the street holding that decapitated head, and he's still got that sandwich in his hand, or a burger or something like that. So, anywho. Yes.
So the police finally show up, and they basically just give them their cards and are like, call us if anything else happens. There's nothing we can do right now.
Useless. Absolutely useless. They're bumbling idiots.
Yeah.
I keep saying bumbling, and I don't know if it's fumbling. I had the same.
No, bumbling. Bumbling idiots, yeah.
He gives her a card, and then he's like, oh, whoop, actually, that's the wrong one. And then he like pulls another one out. It's just like so unserious.
Yeah. But that is an example of the little dialogue that I really enjoy.
Me too.
Because it does add character.
Yeah, and it infuses humor into a very gruesome slasher.
Yes, very gruesome, which we're about to get to, some of it at least, because Linda is now going to put beer in her trunk. She's finally leaving, and she's putting the beer in her car, and we see someone approach her. You see like a knife, a shadow of a knife, I think, or like just the knife, and then there's an off-screen kill. So no gore yet.
No gore yet, but we've lost somebody.
Yes, we've lost somebody.
Also, one thing I wanted to point out that I thought you were going to point out is after the cops are like leaving, one of the characters like turns to someone and says they wouldn't be able to catch a cold. But you don't, but it's not like it's not a focal point of the scene. You just kind of overhear him saying that. And we talked about it before, how much we love that.
Yes, when there's just like a random little dialogue and under their breath and you just catch it and it's not focused on.
And also, it's important to note that Jen's nose begins to bleed at some point in here from all the stress of what's happening.
And also, I think getting hit in the face, because I think that she does use the tissue like right after he hits her too.
That's a good point, yeah.
But probably stress too. So we find out now that Bill is not happy, like really not happy about the place being sold. I think he's talking to Danny. Danny is just ready to get that check.
Yep.
And so Bill goes out back because he hears something. He has a hammer with him. He goes out back and he catches Craig either peeping or trying to break into the window where Jennifer is.
Yeah, he definitely is trying to get through.
Okay, that's what I thought, because they show Jennifer looking in the mirror and then Craig's outside, so I didn't know if that was like the direct room he was trying to go into.
It definitely is, because later in the movie he says, let's go through the washroom because that's the window that I came in from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Craig overpowers Bill, who is now trying to stop him, and knocks Bill out with his own hammer.
Sure does.
So we go back to the office. Danny's in there doing his little receipt thing, whatever. He starts being strangled from behind. And he tries to press the intercom. There's an intercom where he can talk to the whole story. He's trying to reach it. He can't reach it. He finally does. It's just like a loud feedback noise. Everyone's like, it's hurting their ears. And he finally gets the intercom. He pulls it and like the wires come out of the wall.
Yeah, this is the scene too where you're looking through the bottle.
Yeah, you see him through the bottle at one point.
It's really neat.
So there's a long, sharp metal stick. I was trying to describe the thing, the receipt spike or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to look it up after this. And he gets his face shoved into it and the thing goes straight through his eye.
It looks gnarly.
They show it. Like once they show the head, there's no cut. It's just like the head going through the spike or the spike going through the head, I guess.
I loved it. It reminded me of one of the Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Is it which is the one where he goes down on the machete? He goes down on the machete.
Oh, I think that's part 4, because that's my favorite one.
It reminded me of that. Just how there's no cut. You just see the spike going right through the guy's eyeball.
Wait, part 4 is the one with
Corey
the
Feldman.
kid. Yes. The bald kid.
Yeah, Corey Feldman.
Bald
Yeah,
Corey
I think you're
Feldman.
right. I think it is part 4 where he falls on the machete. But that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. So
Which makes sense because they did work under Savini when Savini was doing Day of the Dead.
Oh, cool.
These makeup artists, Greg and Toro, K and B, them.
Yeah.
They worked under Tom Savini. So that makes sense to me that the kills are so fantastic.
Yeah. And we get another really cool shot here of the blood splatter that goes on the light bulb. It covers the bulb and then the whole room is red.
And it like sits, the shot just sits on that light bulb for an uncomfortable amount of time. And they do this great thing too. In between scenes, they cut to different parts of the store that are just quiet. And it's very unsettling. You're just seeing images of pieces of the store.
Yeah, and you're like waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, it's just really uncomfortable.
Yeah. So we go back to where the cashiers are, and Jennifer is freaking out, of course. Dave is there. He consoles her. I really like this. I thought it was really cute. They hug, and then he gives her a kiss on the nose. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah.
And then they start making out naturally.
Just fully making out on the register. All I was thinking about was the conveyor belt. I was like, girl, your hair is gonna get stuck.
Was it going?
No, but that's where my brain went. I went, oh my God, she's gonna get sucked in.
Like a Final Destination death?
Did you watch Rescue 911 as a child?
I don't think so.
Okay. Why I was watching this as a kid, I don't know. But there's an episode where this little boy gets his body
An
sucked
escalator?
into the escalator.
Oh, I've heard that. I never knew if it was just something
Urban
that,
legend?
Yes.
No, that was real, dude. And I saw it when I was a little kid, and to this day, I am a little bit afraid of escalators.
Did they show it?
Yes. It's crazy.
Oh,
It's
the
like
90s.
a reenactment, but it's so scary.
Oh, okay. It's the 90s, so I'm like, did they show you the actual footage? I wouldn't be surprised.
So scary. I just rewatched it on
Wow.
YouTube because I didn't know if I made it up or not. You know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
like, did it actually happen that way? It did. It did.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, Jennifer is not being quiet about this at all. She's giggling so loud. She's not trying to hide the fact that they're just making out on this conveyor belt.
Nope.
And it grabs the attention of Tim, who Tim is basically the beer stocking guy.
Yeah, and he's drinking on the job.
He's drinking the beer and he's stocking the beer. He's in the refrigerator the whole time. And he notices Jennifer and Dave because she's giggling very loud.
Yes.
So he is like, ooh, what's going on? And then he's peeping on them.
Definitely. It's
So
gross.
it is a little creepy. And so he does leave the cooler and he starts watching them from the aisle. And then we see the POV of back in the cooler. So presumably the killer is now watching him from where he just was. So maybe...
Someone's watching him watch them.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. And maybe he was going to get killed right then in the cooler, but he left.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't really make a difference because that's what's about to happen anyway.
Yes.
So we see that from the POV of the killer in the refrigerator, there's a noise, like a bottle. And Tim looks back, but he doesn't seem too concerned. He's like, oh, that's fine. I want to watch these guys anyway.
Yep.
And he does end up going to check on it. And I wrote, Tim hears a noise back there, but apparently he's too horny to care.
You're not wrong.
So there's a lot happening here. We're jumping around to different people doing different things that aren't really important to mention here for the story.
Not really. One guy sticks his hand in an olive jar and there's an eyeball. Why the eyeball's in there, nobody knows. But
Like, when did you have time to do that? But it's okay.
Sure.
We're going to accept it. So then we go to Produce Joe, who's chopping watermelons. And he's listening to that same song, same 4 notes over and over. He loves that song.
I would lose it.
And as he's chopping, we see like him chopping where the knife keeps going up in the air. Like he's really swinging it. And then finally with one of the chops, we see the chop actually goes into his head. So the killer came from behind and chopped him in the head with a butcher knife.
It's a really cool looking shot.
It is.
I thought it was a great death.
And it's a little, it's not a jump scare, but it does scare you because you think he's just chopping the watermelons and then all of a sudden it's his head.
Yeah, it was cool. I really liked it. It was a good kill.
I liked it. So Dave and Bub are in different aisles and they're stocking stuff.
Oh yeah.
And Bub is fucking with him. He keeps knocking this stuff off the shelf. And he's like, they're tossing the box cutter back and forth. They're like throwing it over the aisle to each other.
Yeah, I think like Dave needs it, and he does close it.
They close it.
Bub closes it and tosses it over to him.
Yeah. And so Tim now, he's like pricing things, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So and that looked fun to me. Just like the pricing
price
gun, like
gun?
dum. Yeah, just like really fast.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I did have to do the price gun, but I can't remember what job it was at. It was fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shoppers?
It was probably Shoppers before we had the digital gimmicks.
Oh.
Yeah.
It looked fun.
And he runs out of stickers. So he realizes he's out of stickers.
Yep. He ends up getting stabbed in the stomach with another giant butcher's knife, which I just want to mention. It seemed like the array of knives that were used for each of these kills, it keeps changing. It keeps like getting bigger or just changing style. Like he had an infinite amount of knives.
No, for real. And also this death was gnarly.
Yes.
It looked so painful, and it really made my skin crawl.
Yeah. Like blood sprays everywhere.
Yeah.
All over the beer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we keep seeing flashes here too, not only of what the other kids are doing, but we see the different machines that they're using.
Yep.
Everyone's using something different. Like,
and the sounds are like very jarring.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. Another thing about this movie that I really like. The sounds that they use are really uncomfortable at times.
Unsettling.
Yeah. It really creates this atmosphere of tension and dread.
Yeah.
In a really clever way that's not like the dread that I can't stand.
Yeah. Because you know that someone is stalking them. They have to be on the lookout. We know that people are dying now. They don't know yet.
Yep.
But they're just kind of going about their day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that absolutely adds tension. And so I think it's Randy that is using like an entire machine that's basically an electric knife. He's cutting chicken parts. So it's like it's set up almost like a saw, but it's a whole machine that does that. And then there's like the big hydraulic press that I'm assuming is like a garbage compactor. So we're seeing all these things and they are important to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So Bub at this point is looking for Tim, who he thinks is fucking with him now.
Yes, he's crushing boxes and he looks through the machine and he sees somebody standing there, but you can't see who it is because there's like a grating, and he just assumes, that he's being fucked with.
Yeah, and he thinks it's Tim. So he goes around looking for Tim. He finds Tim.
Sure does.
Tim is sitting in the cooler.
It's so creepy.
He's sitting there with his eyes wide open, but he's just staring ahead. And this is not a prosthetic. This is the actor, right?
I would think so. It looks like it.
I think so. And that makes it even more creepy because it looks much more real, of course, because it is.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just, imagine having to sit there with your eyes open. I feel like my eyes would dry out in 2 seconds.
I think I can because of my contacts.
Oh, okay.
I can I stare for a really long time, but it's only because my contacts are probably being glued to my eyeballs.
Interesting little tip, I guess.
Eye staring contest? Is that a thing?
A staring contest?
Staring contest.
I don't think you say eye staring, but I don't think you have to specify eyes, but you can. So Bub, it kept autocorrecting Bub to Bob in my notes and it's driving me crazy.
I called him Stoner Guy the whole time.
Stoner Guy? Yeah. So Bub is trying to get him to talk. He's like, come on, Tim, why aren't you answering me? Does anal itch got you down?
Yeah.
Like what?
It's really unsettling, honestly. The scene is really, because we know what's about to happen and he doesn't. And makes me so like, ugh.
Yes. And mind you, Bub is looking at Tim through the refrigerator like you would to go grab a drink out of a grocery store where, there's the stock area is behind it.
Yep.
And someone grabs Bub's head and drags him through the cooler.
Sure does.
They drag Bub back to the hydraulic press. And this is where the kills get gnarly, like the really gnarly ones.
It is so gross and so effing cool.
They straight up show his head being crushed with this hydraulic press. It is so...
And it's not even his whole head.
Yes, it's just half of it, like the nose up. So you can see his jaw is still there.
Ugh.
And of course, it's easy to look back on it in 2025 and say like, oh, obviously that's a rubber head or obviously that's whatever. But imagine seeing that in 1989, first of all.
To be honest, seeing it even now.
But even today, I think it holds up.
It does. It was really gross and really cool. And it was like, I remember when it got to that part, I was like, oh, this is why I love this friggin' movie.
Yeah, I totally, same thing. Well, not for me because I am watching it for the first time at that point, but I was thinking this is why Laura loves this movie. This is what really sold her were these fucking kills.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the hydraulic press videos on Instagram or TikTok? You've never seen those videos? I have to show you after. Do you like satisfying videos?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, what do you mean?
Like where you watch someone do something and it's just satisfying to watch?
Oh, like when somebody like pours like cement and it like perfectly goes smooth or something?
So these are, sorry, I just punched the mic. These are hit or miss for people. They press random objects with a hydraulic press, not a flat one. It's like a cylinder. And so they push it into like this cup and they do different things.
Oh.
Some things like shoot out like in a spiral, like Play-Doh.
Whoa.
Some things explode. And this one lady, I need to find her name. I don't know if she still does them, like TikTok videos of her reacting to each thing. And I don't know why I just find it so funny. Because
Okay.
I feel like I'm in alignment with the ones that she doesn't like. She's like, no, don't ever do that again. I don't like that one. And then some of them,
you have to show me.
yeah. Sorry. Anyway, I'll find it and I'll post it in the stories or
No,
something.
please, because I'm curious now.
I want to give her a shout out if she's still doing it. So anyway, Randy is going through his meat inventory.
Ooh, and he like is looking to check if things are expired. It is.
Yeah.
It does not look up to code.
No, even as someone who does eat meat, it looked disgusting to me. That whole
Nasty.
room looked disgusting.
Real gross.
So he comes across a saran wrapped hand, which also, when did you have time to do that?
It made me think of Blood Diner.
Yeah.
Like I was like, has he been killing people this whole time? Like,
oh yeah, that's a good point. Maybe he was doing some other shady stuff.
because how did he get the hand? Like, how did he stop and go like, not only am I going to kill these kids, but I'm going to do some funny gags too.
Exactly.
It's weird.
There's one of the hands is in the fish tank.
Yeah. I felt so bad for the lobsters.
Oh, was it lobster tank?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh, heartbreaking.
I do feel bad for lobsters in general, but we won't even get into all that.
Oh God, I'll start crying.
Okay, so I'm like, where the hell was I? Oh, somebody grabs him from behind, picks him up. I loved this. They set him. Okay, that sounded crazy to be like, I love this.
No, I was about to say I loved it too.
Because they set him on a meat hook. But I love that they did it face forward because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, it was
Everyone
gruesome.
does it. Usually see it backwards.
Yeah, like Texas Chainsaw style.
Exactly what I was thinking. But it makes more sense to put him forward because I imagine trying to get someone's back on a meat hook has to be hard. But you put it under their chin, that makes more sense.
I guess this was Ted Raimi's. He was the one that thought of this.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, that's
Yeah, it was
what I
really cool.
researched and found.
I thought it was going to go through his mouth, which I also was like, oh.
So did I. I thought it was going to go right through his, like the roof of his mouth.
Yeah, but either way, disgusting.
Gross. Very cool though.
It was probably a lot easier to do it because was it the actual actor hanging there, I think? Like with I don't know if it was, but if it was, I imagine that would have been easier to maneuver and like rig than it would if it was actually going through his mouth. That would have to be like a whole prosthetic.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. I have no idea.
So
I'm like, true. No clue. Anyway,
we don't know all the answers. Okay. We're just trying. We're trying our best. So Dave yells for Bub at this point. They're back in the aisles going through their stocking, not stalking like Craig is doing. So Dave yells for Bub to throw his box cutter over like he did earlier, and it cuts his hand. And he's like, "Dick, like why didn't you put the safety on?"
Yeah, exactly.
So we already know Bub is dead.
Yes, we do.
And we know that. I mean, you're tossing box cutters over an aisle with a serial killer right now.
Yeah, exactly.
We know what's going on. So Dave goes to get a Band-Aid and he sees boots in a stall. Like, yes, all the gags, all the random body parts that are scattered around the store now. He sees boots in a stall and he's like calling to see if it's someone he knows, like who's in there.
Yep.
He opens the door and it's just a pair of boots with the feet seemingly still inside.
And he thinks they're pig feet.
Yes, I love that part that he just laughed and was like, okay, like good job, guys. The pig's feet. Like maybe they've done that before. I don't know. But
now that you're saying that, I do think Bill does come across like someone who would find it comical to not only be killing these kids, but to be messing with them psychologically as well.
Especially how he acts in the end. I think you're right. I think he would just go out of his way to be extra.
Yep, for sure.
So Dave is not fazed, and clearly they play a lot of jokes on each other.
Yeah, that's the feel I got, that they all just kind of like mess with each other.
Yeah. And he starts going up to the attic. And he's like, Bub, I know you're up there. I know you're screwing around. He opens the attic door and a mask falls on him, like a Halloween mask.
Yep.
He goes up there. He's shining the flashlight all around the attic very slowly. And it's panning across a bunch of masks. I thought we were going to see like a severed head amongst I was going to say matches, the masks.
I did too, yeah.
But that's not what happened. So as Dave is climbing down, Danny appears on the other side of the ladder, like through the ladder almost. His eye is all fucked up. I was shocked he wasn't dead.
Same.
And he's asking for help, like, help me, that kind of thing. And then Dave, I think he falls.
He does,
right?
because it scares him, so he eats shit.
Yeah, he falls. He runs over to the window that Bill had looked out earlier to see look down on the store basically. And he's banging on the window. He can see Jennifer at the register. He sees Craig is in one of the aisles.
Yep.
So not only did he just get scared and, something happened to Danny, but also he's trying to warn Jennifer that Craig is there.
Yep.
Someone does like a fucking zip line down the hall, kicks Dave with both feet, kicks him into the wall, and then slices his head with a meat cleaver.
It's a very nasty kill. Dave is like crying out.
Yeah.
And you really just feel like you're in the room with them.
Yeah, and it takes a long time. This one takes a long time.
Yeah.
So he gets sliced, but he's just screaming basically. And then the person starts dragging him away.
Yeah.
By his
and he's
feet.
like screaming, like, no.
Yeah. Just trying to fight him. The scene is a little prolonged. So you're just watching him scream and try to like fight. He's getting dragged by his feet. His hand goes right over the meat cleaver that just fell, but he doesn't notice it in time. So he doesn't get to grab it. And, they basically drag him to that chicken cutter or whatever.
Yeah, it almost looks like a buzz saw.
It's set up like a saw, yeah. And gets his head cut in half.
It's disgusting.
They really loved the half head effect in this. Like they crushed half of Bub's head.
Yeah.
They cut half of Dave's head off.
They really hold the shot for a long time.
Yes, when I tell you they don't cut it, like once they're showing this saw going through his head, I don't think they cut that either. They show the saw going through like his mouth kind of.
It's so gross that you can like picture it happening to yourself.
Yeah, like his teeth are showing and
he's in agony.
Yeah.
And so scared. Like it's done really, really well. The kills in this movie are top fucking tier.
Yeah, I think that one might have been my favorite one.
Yeah, I think so too. Only because I felt so uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually like freaked me out.
They really went out of their way to show some crazy gore.
No, for sure. So at this point, we know pretty much everybody is dead except for Jen is alive, Craig is alive, Danny is sort of alive, but Jen is walking around the store and she's realizing now that the store is like kind of empty.
Yeah, she starts calling out for everyone.
She's calling for Dave, she's calling for Bub, she's calling for Tim, and she goes down Dave's aisle that he was stocking. And she sees the spilt laundry detergent. And I think she puts it up and it falls again.
Yeah.
And then she puts it up again. And it's almost like the gag from earlier, but not quite.
Yeah.
And I think does she find the box cutter at this point?
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of blood on the floor.
There's blood, yes. So she definitely is like, kind of, what the hell is going on? We see a bunch of shots of the store again. They're cutting to like the light bulb with the blood. They cut to a whole bunch of different really neat shots from the grocery store.
Yeah.
And she goes back into the cooler area and she's calling for Randy. And she does note how messy it is.
Yeah.
And even when she walked back there, I was like, man, that's disgusting. And she says it. She's like, wow, like what the hell happened back here?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's kind of messy. She steps on an eyeball.
Yeah. But she doesn't notice, right?
She doesn't notice it. But she, like a meat hook starts like jingling and it starts like moving forward and it's like a giant piece of meat. It stops right in front of her. And then she turns and she runs into Randy's hanging body from the meat hook.
Yes. And she basically starts the classic final girl run through of all the dead bodies, right?
Absolutely, exactly. And smart girl, she runs and she hides in one of the coolers and she finds a meat hook and grabs it.
Like a handheld one with a little wooden handle.
Exactly. And I was like, yes, girl.
Yes, looking like Captain Hook over there. Do it up.
And I was so proud of her. I was like, yes, Jen, grab that, you know? And
while she's crouching there, there's like a pair of legs.
Yes,
like
right behind her.
Yeah, just standing there.
Again. Gag.
Yeah, she never notices them.
She doesn't. I think that was kind of funny too.
Yeah.
Like we notice it, but she doesn't see it.
Yeah.
And it's a scene where she's like crouched up hiding against the wall.
Yeah. She's waiting and then something starts to move in the corner of the cooler.
Yes.
And she's like, fuck this. She gets out of there.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now the killer or whoever's in there, which I mean, we know it's the killer, has his arm blocking the door from closing. She's trying to shove that cooler shut and the hand is out. Eventually she stabs it in the front of the hand. Is that what it's called? The back of your hand.
Back of the hand, yeah.
The front, the back with the meat hook.
Yep. Exactly. She runs upstairs to the manager's office. She notices that there's like blood pooling underneath the door. And then she falls down this like giant slide.
So she basically falls down this slide thing and she ends up kind of stumbling into two garbage cans. There's a body there. I think it's Tim, where it's like his body cut in half in two separate garbage cans. So like torso in one, leg sticking out of the other. And he has a sign on him that says half off.
Oh, poor guy.
I'm like, come on, Tim.
Another gag.
Yeah. She sees more body parts crushed with the boxes in that hydraulic press. So also they zoom in on a sign there that says like new crush proof boxes while that happens. And then she's back at that conveyor belt and it looks like Produce Joe is coming down the belt seemingly intact. Like he looks like he's just laying there. And then as it's kind of, moving him, his head falls off. She opens one of the refrigerators, which is backed by the beer. Oh, you know what? I don't think the body in the garbage can was Tim. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's one of her friends. So she opens one of the refrigerators where Tim would sit, probably so she can see out that window and like kind of peep the grocery store, right?
So she's running around. She runs into the cooler and she finds Dave's fucked up head in the beer cooler. And she somehow is holding it together.
Yeah, it's like cut in half horizontally, but it's placed on slightly off. So it's like the top of his head is twisted one way and the bottom half is twisted the other way.
It's pretty gross looking.
Yeah.
Like his teeth and shit look nasty.
Yeah.
It's pretty gross. And then a car pulls up and Jen runs for the door. And these are just patrons. They're people just coming into shop. But before Jen can get to the door, they try it and they're like, oh, it's locked.
Yeah.
Oh, it's closed. And they just turn around and leave.
Yeah, they drive off. She gets to the door. Craig grabs her. So now he's back. He grabs her. She slices him in the face with the meat hook.
I thought she got him in the neck. It looked like the neck.
Maybe. I was going to say that, or she like knocked him out with a handle or something because he's out.
He's out. He is. And it did look like he died.
Yeah.
Because she thinks she killed him.
Yeah.
Her response to that is like any normal person would. Like she's distraught because I'm sure she didn't want to kill him.
Yeah, she doesn't want to have to be the one to do it.
No, but she obviously thinks that he is the killer.
Right.
She does for sure.
So she hears a noise in the back and it's like, okay, who's there now? Like who is left?
Yeah, and she's like kind of silently like sobbing to herself and she's like calling out like who's there. She's really, but it's really unsettling.
And out walks motherfucking Bill.
Sure does.
Though we don't know yet what's going on because Jennifer doesn't. She's happy to see him.
She runs to him. And you know what's so funny? She runs over and she's kind of like whatever. And he's consoling her. And even the first time I watched it, I remember saying like, he's got a lot of blood on his hands.
The first time I watched it, when he walked out, I was like, oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Here we go. Like the way he walked, you just know.
Yeah.
But Jennifer did not know. And then, yes, when he's hugging her, we can see that he has the back of his hand is punctured. Almost like it was hit with a meat hook.
Yeah. And he's holding her, like he hugs her so his hands are on her waist.
Right.
And that's when I noticed his hands were bloody.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
yeah,
his hands are bloody.
But she doesn't notice yet.
She doesn't notice it. She tells him to like call the police or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't worry. I got this. I'm going to take care of you. And he walks over and he looks to be on the phone.
Right.
And she's kind of standing there. And that's when she looks down and she notices that there's blood on her dress. Because she puts her hands on her dress and she lifts up her hands and she's like, my hands are red.
Yeah.
That's odd. And then she looks over and Bill at the same time notices that there's blood on his hand. And so now obviously she's pieced together. Bill's the killer.
Yes. I was curious if they intended for us to learn that when she learned it, or if I imagine they showed it to us early so we would kind of see it before she did.
I think it was like a nugget. Like maybe if you're paying close attention, you would notice it.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
He looks so intense when he realizes it. She takes off running. He starts running and jumping across the different like cash registers.
I made a note of that. He looked like a coyote or something.
It looked crazy.
Like he got down. It almost looked like he turned into like an animal.
Yeah. Because you see her running and you see just legs hopping across each cash register.
Oh, yeah.
Or each conveyor belt. And I was like, damn, that person is athletic as hell.
No, for sure.
So we do see here that Craig's eyes open. So he's not dead.
He is not dead.
But he's not up yet.
Right.
So eventually Bill gets to Jennifer and, she's asking him, why did you do it? And he's revealing his whole plan, of course. And he's just crazy about the store. That's one of the things he says.
Yeah, exactly.
He is so animated.
He's great.
I thought he was so charismatic.
I know. I really liked him.
And even before I realized that it was him, I just loved his character. I thought he was very just entertaining.
I thought so too. And I think I wrote, instead of writing like all the things that he said, I just said, Bill's like, it's my store and fuck y'all.
No, for real.
Because that's kind of his monologue.
Yeah. And he does say like, I had to stop Danny because I love the store. And she's like, well, why did you kill everyone else?
Got a little carried away.
Yeah. And he also says that he couldn't let anyone else stop him. But like, I don't think they would have.
I don't think so either.
I think you could have just let them go home for the day and killed Danny, and they would have been like, oh.
Yeah. It's
That's
obvious
crazy.
that he's enjoying himself a little too much. Mm-hmm. So she spits in his face and he's like, sorry, but you got to die. I don't think he wants to kill her. No, I shouldn't say that. I don't think he doesn't. I don't think it's because he doesn't like these kids. I don't think it has anything to do with a personal thing.
Yeah.
I think he just enjoys fucking with them and killing them.
He's supposed to be a maniac.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess so. Yeah.
Because he does say earlier in the earlier in the movie, he tells Jennifer something about how like, you know, all these kids are wild or whatever, but not you. Like, he does seem to like her more.
Definitely, for sure. And he does mention that Craig's going to take the blame for, like, all of this. He's framing Craig. Yes. Essentially.
There was a point where I was like, oh, he's not going to kill her. And then he's like, there's going to be one more kill tonight, which is implying her.
Absolutely.
And that, yes, Craig is going to take the blame.
Mm-hmm.
So here we kind of start into a cat and mouse.
Yeah,
Jennifer.
She runs away. She gets away. She grabs 2 giant knives.
Yes.
And he's got a cleaver.
More knives, more different knives.
Absolutely.
At one point, I think we're going to say this.
The paper towel?
Wait, no, go ahead.
Well, Bill is stalking her. Like, a package of paper towel falls on the ground and he stops, turns around, picks it up and puts it back on the shelf.
I didn't even catch that.
Cracked me up.
That is so Bill. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't even catch that. The next thing that I wrote was that some guy walks up with like a crate full of, I wrote apples, bread. I don't know what he was carrying, but outside he walks up to the door. And I'm like, what time is it? It's like 3 a.m. Like, why is this guy delivering? I mean, maybe deliveries happen late at night. I don't really know.
I totally missed that. I didn't even see it.
Yeah. I was like, who brings fresh produce after midnight? But he walks up to the door while Jennifer's trying to open it to get out. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And so.
Oh, that's right. Before this, she hits him over the bottle with a thing of wheat germ. I popped for that.
Oh, yeah,
They're like hiding. She's hiding in a cereal aisle.
Yeah.
She grabs wheat germ and smacks him over the head with it.
There's a whole chase before that.
It's fun
and then
goofy.
Bill stabs the delivery guy in the back with an even bigger butcher's knife now. He has an infinite amount. Mm-hmm. He keeps changing up his knife game. He doesn't have a signature yet. That's why he's trying to test the water, see what works for him. Mm-hmm. So he also shows her the keys there, like jingling it and implying that he locked her in from the outside. But like, what grocery store would only lock from the outside? Anyway, that's not important. So she sees Danny on the ground. She can just see his head peeking out from an aisle. And he's yelling, help me.
It's so, right? This is so like, this is so Bill.
It is so Bill. And I loved this part. So even when I was reading my notes, I'm like, wait, what did I write here? What am I talking about? But yeah, she sees Danny and she goes over to help him, and it is fucking Bill using Danny's head as a puppet. Mm-hmm. He stands up and he keeps doing the voice while Bill's head or Danny's head is basically on his hand.
Yeah, because he's reenacting Parker.
Exactly.
The story of Parker. He's holding a sandwich. She goes to stab him and he grabs the knife by the sharp part.
Yeah, by the blade and just squeezes it.
The sharp part.
The sharp part. I know. I'm with you. I'm right there with you. And so he starts walking toward her. He's swinging the head in one hand, eating a sandwich with the other, just like his story earlier.
And he says that she's playing hard to get.
Ugh. Ew. Gross. That just grosses me out. Mm-hmm. They show Jennifer running through the aisles from a POV that like, that you're at the other end of the aisle.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as you watch it, I feel like I was just picturing them telling her like, okay, now go. Okay, now stop. Okay, now go. Like you can kind of see it. And so Craig eventually grabs Jennifer. He catches up with her.
Yep. He covers her mouth immediately.
Yes. Yep. Because she might still think he's in on it or something.
And he does tell her that he saw Bill do a bunch of shit.
Yeah, he saw her kill Linda.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the first thing that he saw.
He tells her like that he tried to stop Bill, like he hit him. And he does this. I think this is where he mentions that he came through the washroom window.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it is like, I know here, you know, Craig is like now by default one of the good guys.
Yeah, he's turned into a baby face.
But I'm also like,
his turn.
Yeah, it's his baby face turn. But I cannot help but remember that you fucking slapped her.
Oh no, he still sucks.
You fucking suck, Craig.
Yeah, like on a scale from Bill to Craig, like I would say
you're in hell either way.
No, exactly. No, for sure. I mean, he is trying to save her though, so at least there's that.
At least he's on her side for now.
And he does square up with Bill, and here come the fake punching sounds again.
Oh my gosh, fake punching sound. And then also Bill just starts beating the shit out of Craig with Danny's head.
Yes, it's great. It's so funny.
I also love that too. So Craig is knocked out again. Like, he has at least had 2 concussions tonight. He is not looking good right now, okay?
No.
And Jennifer gets to a car. She opens the door. Linda's body falls out with a knife in her torso. And I was curious, with all the crazy graphic gore in this movie, I was curious why Linda's kill was off screen.
Well, I will tell you things at the end of the episode.
Okay.
That might answer your question.
I'm excited. So Bill grabs Jennifer's legs from under the car now, drags her.
Can I just make a note of this?
Yes.
He grabs her ankles and pulls her under the car, but he pulls her all the way out from under the car to the other side of the car.
Yeah.
And like logistically, I was like, how on earth did he manage to fit his fucking body under the car, grab her feet, and then like wiggle his way backwards while dragging her back onto his feet on the other? It just made no sense to me how he was so agile.
I mean, the way he ran across those registers earlier, he's just super athletic.
He is like a feline.
And very mobile.
No, for real. But I paused it and was like, how on earth is he that? There's no way I could do that.
Bill's hip mobility goes crazy.
Unreal. The guy does yoga for sure.
5 times a day. To prepare for this, actually. So he goes to chop her with a meat cleaver. Like you said, he pulled her all the way through. He's standing.
Yep.
She is under the car, but she still has her arms like underneath the car. So we don't see what she has.
Yep.
He goes to chop her with a meat cleaver. Another knife again. Go ahead.
And she goes, suck on this. And she stabs him.
Right in the torso.
Wicked.
This knife is so long, it could have been a machete, but I don't think it was.
And he's like, where'd you get that knife?
Yeah, and then he falls on the ground. The knife, this was really weird to me.
Tell me.
This is a choice. He falls on the ground. The knife shoots out of his body. And lands in a cardboard box next to him because they're kind of like by the dumpster area and like point down. I didn't really know. I didn't find anything about why that was chosen. It was interesting.
It was pretty funny.
Go ahead.
She runs to the payphone. She calls 911. And again, it's pretty useless. But Bill, not dead, jumps up and starts fighting like through the glass of the phone booth to try to get at her.
Yeah, he ends up pushing the entire phone booth over.
Yeah, he's like shaking it, topples it over. Poor Jen.
She's been through a lot.
Oh, my God. Yep.
He starts climbing through the broken window to get to her. And then Craig pops up with that meat cleaver.
He hacks at Bill.
He starts just chopping him up.
Like, it reminded me of Corey Feldman at the end of Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
Just hacking the shit out of Bill.
I shouldn't say chopping him up because he's not like chopping off his body parts, but Bill is kind of like stuck in that phone booth. Jennifer climbed out through the broken window.
Yeah.
And
it's a great visual.
Craig is just like hitting him with his fist and the knife at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And then the cops show up.
They sure do.
And one of them is Bruce Campbell.
Yes.
Who was heavily advertised as to be one of the stars of this movie.
Wow. Oh, interesting.
He was not.
People were probably pissed.
I would think so, yes. He does have a nice cameo here, though.
Yeah, it's definitely a cameo. Definitely not starring role. And so Bill looks like he's dead. Mm-hmm. His face is pressed up against the glass in a pretty funny way in that phone booth. Mm-hmm. When the police do get there, they immediately think Craig and Jennifer are responsible.
Yes, which I can kind of understand why, because Craig is holding the cleaver. Bill is seemingly dead.
Craig's covered in blood.
Yes.
And he's wearing a leather jacket.
I mean, bad boy.
They also find a box cutter on Jennifer. They push them both against the car. They are aggressive.
This is so aggressive.
Yeah. They start arresting them. Bill comes to enough to yell to the officers, they did it.
Such a little
They
shit.
killed everyone in there, like you little fucker. And the officer is being so it's the other officer is being so abusive to Craig.
I know.
He's like pulling his hair. I think he pulls Jennifer's hair at one point. I don't even think Bruce Campbell is in this scene. It's just like that one officer that kind of takes
Bruce Campbell's there.
Like he's there, but he's not the one like doing anything. So I'm like, he really was a cameo. He was like, you got 5 minutes. Not even.
Let's do this.
So punching him in the back, and Bill's like laughing, but then it looks like he does die.
Yeah, he closes his eyes. Rest in peace.
But then at the very, very end, his eyes shoot open. I don't really know why.
And then we get a close-up. We zoom in quickly into Jennifer screaming mouth.
Yeah, the officer behind her is kind of pantomiming that he's scolding her. It's very like, like a Muppet. And then, they zoom into her mouth. right before that, I think we had seen Bill's eyes shoot open. So I guess they're just trying to imply he's still alive and might do it again. And then the movie ends in Jennifer's mouth.
I think it was like Bill's eyes open as a way to be like, haha, I got away with it. Wink.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that we are to believe that Jennifer and Craig are going to take the fall for this.
For sure.
Which made me look into when DNA evidence would come into play.
I remember you did mention that to me. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, no, it's okay. It's just going to get cleared up later. Like, they're not going to go to jail for this. But I was like, wait, it's 1989. What does that mean? But I did look into it. And the DNA was first introduced as evidence in the United States criminal court system in 1986. But the first criminal was caught using DNA evidence in 1987. This movie was 1989, probably filmed in 1988. I don't know. And the first exoneration using DNA in the US was 1989. So it's still new at that point.
For sure. It's brand new.
They might have went to jail for it.
Yeah. Did they have the database at that point?
They had the database, like it was introduced into the criminal system, into the court system, but it was still like just being used to catch people, just being used to exonerate people. So I'm sure a lot of them weren't even caught at that point, like they kind of like didn't catch every single mistake they had made or didn't catch every single criminal because they didn't have enough DNA in the system.
Right. It was new.
But anyway, the movie ends there.
The end.
The end. Wow.
Did you like it?
I really did love it. I loved the kills. Like even the little things that we called out where we're like, now how the hell would you do that?
Yeah.
It's silly. It kind of, especially with Bill's personality, I think it's funny enough that it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
And
I think that's why it works.
Yes. And also the practical effects, I think, make up for any of that anyway.
So crazy. But the very first, I was going to say rendition, but that doesn't make sense. The first distribution of this movie had all of the gore cut out of it.
All of it?
All of it. So all of the effects were gone.
So kind of like with the first time I watched Blood Rage and I didn't realize I was watching the cut one. And I was like, this doesn't really have a lot of meat to it.
Like a full 5 minutes. So that would be all of the kills.
Yeah.
Essentially, which is, I imagine why Linda's kill was cut at first. We don't see it.
Oh, do you know if they filmed an actual like?
I'm not sure, but knowing that they cut so much makes sense to me why that would be cut if, they might have filmed, I don't know, who knows, right? Maybe it had to do with the runtime. There could be a million reasons why.
I was wondering if it's because she's a woman and because of the time, if they just felt like such a gory graphic kill was too much. And because the men get like slaughtered.
Oh yeah.
But the one woman that gets killed is off screen. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, definitely could be. Full Moon released this movie for its 30th anniversary in 2019, and it included all of the effects and all of the kills.
Okay.
So the original release, when it came out, I want to say in 1989, was missing them. And then it was released onto DVD in 2005 by Wizard Video, which would have been like the director's cut. And then when Full Moon distributed it, it actually had all the original uncensored version of the film.
Yeah, I would imagine the one that we just rewatched would have been like everything.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was for sure. I watched it on Full Moon Features. Did you watch it on Full Moon?
No, I watched it on Tubi.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely, because I think Full Moon and Tubi have like some kind of relationship.
Okay.
Because a lot of the Puppet Master movies I know were on Tubi.
We love Tubi.
Got my Puppet Master shirt on today.
I love that shirt.
Thanks. It's Terror Threads. They have great shirts.
Oh, yeah. I just noticed. I just looked down and was like, whoa, at the Leech Woman.
Leech Woman. Yeah. I figured I would do Puppet Master because it's a Full Moon.
Yeah.
Full Moon family.
I love that little tie-in. Mine is just Daria because I'm running out of horror and wrestling shirts to wear.
I love Daria, though. I love it. So a couple little tidbits. Would you like to hear them?
Sure would.
Okay. So the song that Randy sings in one of the scenes is a song that Shelley sings in The Evil Dead.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of like a fun nod.
Yeah.
Bill's story about Parker was from Raising Arizona, which is like the head in the hand sandwich thing. When Emil Sitka, who plays the grumpy old man in the beginning, he was in Three Stooges.
Okay.
And one of his famous lines is, "Hold hands, you lovebirds."
Oh, so that's what he said.
Yes. And it is actually written on his tombstone.
Oh,
isn't that so sweet?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I know. I love that. I thought that was really kind of like a fun little tidbit. And I from what I read, the original short, I think I said this was based off of a short story, but it's actually a short film that was actually filmed on Super 8.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is really neat. And it was called Night Crew. And originally the title of this movie was going to be Night Crew. But the distributors were like, I think you should make this a more generic slasher name so that people would know what it was.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. So they came up with Intruder.
Yeah, I think I do like Intruder better though.
Okay.
Because it tells you that something bad is going to happen. Night Crew doesn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I could see that for sure. It was shot over the course of 2 weeks. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And the body count is 9.
That's a lot. There are a lot of members, a lot of characters, which is why I was struggling with the names sometimes.
No, I know. That's why I put Ted and Sam on everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I'm so glad you recommended this.
There's actually an alternate version of the ending that they were going to originally use, which is instead of closing in on just her mouth, the camera was going to go all the way down her throat to her heart, and then her heart was going to stop beating. So that was the original idea, and then they decided to go with...
That would have been even crazier, because I'd be like, wait, she died? Like, she was so stressed out that she just died?
Maybe. She'll have a heart attack?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just her heart getting broken.
Maybe.
Being let down.
Yeah.
By all of these terrible men.
No, for real.
At least Craig tried to save her.
In the end, yeah.
I don't like him by any stretch of the imagination.
We are not Team Craig, but yeah, I'm glad he at least...
It's like when a heel in a match does like the right thing.
Yeah.
And the audience is going like, I still don't like you.
Yeah.
You still beat up my favorite.
It's literally the least you could do is save me.
No,
you bastard.
exactly. The bar is like to the ground.
The bar is in hell.
I'm so glad you liked it though.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I love slashers. I love whodunits. I feel like this is like the best combination of the two.
Yeah.
So if you guys liked it, let us know. And if you'd like to, you could follow us on our social media accounts.
Yes, at Chainsaw Girls Pod.
We're pretty much everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Yeah. And you could also email us, chainsawgirlspod@gmail.com. And we do have a Patreon.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we're so excited. We actually just started it on January 1st-ish, right?
Yeah. We launched it then. Basically, you guys, we post extended episodes. So every episode we extend for an extra whatever.
Yep.
And then we also do bonus episodes.
Yep.
Like
we have Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
We have a lot more bonus content coming too, especially with our photo shoot that we're about to talk about in the extended episode of this one.
So yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Okay, bye.